So the book starts out in this small town in Washington, which many Twilighters have deemed as their own, apparently. And oh gosh, of course. Forks, Washington. Washington the state, not Washington, D.C., because D.C. is a full city, but whatever. Anyway, Forks, Washington, where she, I guess stays with her divorced sheriff policeman father, which, yeah, if you thought the mustache in the movies were funny, he's got the mustache in the books. So, yeah, color that what you will. Accuracy. The reason why she has to stay in Forks, Washington is because her mother got remarried to a sports person, and I guess they have to travel a whole lot, which I gotta say would add a lot more, interestingness to the story, traveling around, I mean, why couldn't Edward and Bella get together? Because she's traveling and all a lot, and Edward's got to stay there. Drama, but no, she's got to stay with her father in this small town. And no disrespect to Forks, Washington. Of course, it's probably a really decent town, but still, this story doesn't really paint your town in a pretty decent light. I'm sorry. Anyway, but she's the quirky girl or whatever. She's very shy. She's very introverted and all that. She doesn't really, talk to a whole lot of people. But apparently, she's unlike most schools she's been in. She's very popular, which is, a shock. You wouldn't think that a really cute shy girl would be very popular, but hey, there you are, I guess. But there's one that doesn't really like her. We all know who that is. Edward Cullen. Oh, Edward! And of course, she has to sit right next to him, and apparently he's appalled and just seems very just awkward around her all the time, which is, of course, he's pale, he's really, really beautiful and all that, but whatever, anyway. And I gotta say, I'm not a psychologist or whatever, but I would suspect this type of person to be bipolar a lot, because, one day he's nice to her, and another day he's just angry and agitated the next, it's kind of toxic. I wouldn't really go after him, Bella, but whatever, I guess. We gotta pump out 4 more books, whatever. But the trigger, the one thing that kind of elevates this from being, oh, well, he's just a weird guy, to, oh my gosh, maybe there's something's weird about him, is that, there's this truck that's coming by and is about to crash into her, but Edward uses his super speed and superhuman strength to stop the truck, just like in the film. If you've seen the trailer of the film, this is what happens here. And she's like, what the hell was that? And Edward's like, leave me alone. Whatever. She then meets the Giga Chad of this entire franchise, Jacob. Yes, I am Team Jacob. Skits will probably be Team Jacob as well, because, whatever. Anyway, but so she meets him on a nearby reservation and gives her some backstory about, his tribe having some, stories about some, his people having to fight vampires, and his shape-shifting, tribemen kind of having to fight them and all that type of stuff, and some legends and all that type of thing, whatever. Something that would not be anywhere near the tribe. The tribe does not have these things at all. So looking back on it was like, okay, no, misrepresentation, no, okay. After this encounter with Jacob, she then looks up online about vampire lore, which apparently is all true online. All the vampire stuff is true online. And all the stuff that she finds is really, really close to how Edward acts in real life. Okay. Oh, but then guess what? Edward saves her again, this time from a SA encounter on the streets. I'm not going to say the real thing because, yeah, what? This is for teenagers? Why? No. What? And it's at this moment that we just have the most gigantic lore dump I've ever seen. And yes, this is bigger than the Lewis lore dump that we currently had in, the Narnia books and all that. This is the biggest one, and it takes up it's like Act 2, okay? Act 2 of this entire book is basically the biggest lore dump of all time. Where we find out that, yes, Edward is a vampire. His family are vampires. He doesn't burn up in the sun, but he sparkles in the sun. Yay. And his family apparently does not drink the blood of humans, but instead drink the blood of animals for ethical purposes, and he can telepathically read minds. Because of course he does. He also explains that the whole reason why he's been acting the way he has toward Bella, aka being bipolar and all that, is because the smell of her blood is so infactually, just appealing to him that he goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs whenever she's around. And I'm not even kidding you, compares him to her blood like a recovering addict does toward heroin. Okay. He also says that the day they met, he came just inches of feeding on her and can't resist the lure of her anymore. But the most stupidest thing ever in the history of anything happens where he agrees to date her, but keep in mind that he might go insane at any moment and, just feast upon her. So if she's good with that, then it's fine. Okay. Why would I date someone like that? Whatever. But of course, Bella agrees, whatever. And then I guess they meet the family. They got a little baseball game and all that, which is fine, whatever. Of course, these vampires would play baseball in old-timey outfits. What is this book? Maybe baseball was a little bit more popular in 2005, but not by much, okay? Not by much at all. However, Bella also finds out later on that, his skin does sparkle, so there you go. And also, he's been using his telepathic abilities to listen upon every conversation she's had without her knowing, and using his super vampire abilities to stalk her. Yes, this is a teen book. Wow. Look, I knew Twilight was kind of, garbage, but I didn't think it was this bad. He's also been breaking into her house to watch her sleep every night, and she's not mad about that. The only reason why she's mad at all is because sometimes she talks in her sleep. Not the part about, breaking into her house to watch her sleep, but being embarrassed about what she might say in her sleep. It's during the baseball game that, these three vampires come over and are like, oh, hey, there's some attractive prey that's very hard to get. Let's get Bella. So they fight. And they're fighting, and then, the vampires, they're flying. The other vampires try to keep her safe by, they keep by hiding her and all that. But the bad vampire, he tricks her by saying, hey, I got your mother, and I kidnapped her, but then she comes out, and she's like, and they're like, oh, no, I don't have your mother. I got you, though. Bam. And then they torture her and all that. He also bites her on the hand, infecting her with, the vampire gene, the vampire virus, whatever. And then Edward gets there, and he's like, oh, crap. Well, I can't let this happen. So instead, having his forceful will, and all that, he sucks out the vampiric virus by sucking her blood and spitting it out like a rattlesnake bite. Yep. It's also a huge thing about how he let her not become a vampire because she wants to live with him forever during the same age because the love and, and all that. And Edward's like, oh, I can't be with you because, all this crap, it just happens to you and I can't do it. But then Bella's like, yeah, half the time that I was in danger was not because of you, so it might as well just happen, let me just, get this going. And he's like, all right, fine. And then they go to prom together, and then Bella's like, I hate prom, I hate dancing, why'd you bring me here? I thought you were going to turn me into a vampire. And he's like, why would I wear a tux for that? What the heck you talking about, woman? And then that kind of ends it. Oh, boy. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, this is not the worst book I have read of all time. Okay, listen. I've read The Eye of Argon, considered by many to be the worst book ever written. And yes, it is a really, really terrible book. So at least Stephanie Meyers knows how to kind of develop characters and sort of develop a story. Not a good story and not good characters, but at least she, attempted to. All right, let's get the good out of the way because trust me, there's not a lot, but there is some. Surprising enough, yes, there is some good in this book. For instance, I like Bella at the beginning of the book, not at the end, because that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, I like the fact that she, actually had a character and actually, was her own woman in the beginning of the book. And she did a lot of selfless things. Like, for instance, she moved to her dad to be with her dad and all that because, yeah, she figured being with her mom is going to be a little bit difficult for her and all that, and wanted to let her just iron out the kinks with her new relationship and all that. And you know what? Yeah, that's kind of selfless. And you know what? Hey, I'm all for it. But then they meet Edward. She meets Edward, and oh boy, here we go. All that character is just flown out the window, just tossed out the window. Now it's just a POC character, a POV character, basically, for all the little girls just swoon over someone trying to protect them and all that. And yeah, it sucks. Not because of, that whole thing. I mean, there's been other books and films and all that where, yeah, the main character is basically a POV character for, a relationship and all that. And some have actually been pretty good, like The Princess Bride, that type of thing. But, the people, the guys, were a lot better than Edward, stalking and hearing a lot of what Bella was doing without her knowing, and her being fine with that. What? Now, to be fair, there are some people, I'm not saying that there isn't, there are some people that, want that to happen. Again, you do you, but for most people, being free and, doing your own thing, that's actually a kind of a good thing. Having privacy and all that, that's a good thing. You don't want some people to listen to every single word you ever say. And again, I'm not a little teenage girl, so I can't really relate to this, but it just seems a little messy. It seems a little not that good. But to be fair, there is a mixture, not a lot, but there is a mixture of some little things that makes Edward sort of appealing, and I kind of understand the appeal of Edward. Like, for instance, the whole sucking the blood thing from Bella and all that, it seems like that's a kind of a very, very blatant allegory for sex. I know, I can't believe I got that. But yeah, even though he really, really, really wants to suck her blood, he refrains from doing so, which I gotta admit, even though, there's a lot of nasty guys that, want to take the flower from women and all that, especially at that age, seeing that, is kind of refreshing. And, it's kind of nice not to have to appeal to the whimsy of man, all that type of stuff, whatever. I like that instance. But then again, he's stalking her and doing all these other things that's really creepy and it's a really big red flag, but she doesn't care. And that's not good. And I guess that's all I'm really going to cover for, the Bella and Edward shenanigans for this book, at least. If you want to hear more, I mean, there's a ton of videos on YouTube and a ton of articles on the internet that really dives into this a lot better than I would, but I'm just going to dive into my own experience reading this book. Now, there are some things that I really did, in fact, like about this book. And I've read books like The Power of Argyle that I didn't even like a sliver of it, okay? But there's some things in Twilight I actually did kind of like the beginning, and like the fact that, the sucking the blood's basically an allegory for sex or whatever. And, I mean, that's fine, it's a good thing. But there's a lot of bad when it comes to this book too. But one thing that's not bad is Jacob. And yes, he's only in very small bits in this book. He only has like 2 conversations with Bella in this book, but still, this guy's a Giga Chad, and I love him. Team Jacob all the way. And again, right? I mean, Stephenie Meyer does have the basics of knowing how to write, but a lot of it is very, very overdone. Like, for instance, the baseball scene. That's like the 3rd act. It happens way too long. And even though I like baseball, it feels like an eternity. I don't care. Why is this in here? Teenage girls do not like baseball. I know. I was a teenager when teenage girls existed, and I played baseball. None of the girls really enjoyed watching the games, okay? No. She also invented a 4th act in this book, which I did not think was even possible, but here we go. Yeah, apparently there's like 4 acts in this book. Number 1, Act 1 is the introduction of Edward and Bella and all that, which I actually found to be pretty enjoyable up until they meet. Act 2 is when, Edward gives the big lore dump. Act 3 is the baseball game. And Act 4 is the giant climax at the end. And yeah, I didn't really like the giant climax at the end. Even though it had the most action, it was kind of on par with the giant lore dump. It's just happens. I don't care. Also, she really, really loves adjectives. I mean, most of this book is adjectives, and not really good ones. A lot of it's melodramatic, which, again, that's kind of what teenagers are. They're very melodramatic, but yeah, reading it now, reading it as a cisgendered adult man, it doesn't really gravitate toward me. I don't like the melodramaticness of it. I have a feeling that Stephenie Meyer was just trying so hard to be like, oh yeah, they're from 2 different worlds, but they can't be together for some reason. Like Romeo and Juliet and all the other biggest romance things of all time and all that. But really? They just go on a whim and kind of stay together for the sake of being together. None of it really resolves. None of it really, progresses or anything. Edward's mostly like, okay, yeah, let's be together. Oh, wait, no, let's not be together because you're in danger a lot. Oh yeah, you're in danger even though I'm not around. Okay, let's be together. It just happens on a whim, and I get it, right? That's what teenagers do. But at the same time, he's like 1,000 years old, so he should be, not like that. He's also partially dead, so the teenage hormones shouldn't be, created, They shouldn't be being made into his brain and all that, So I'm not going to say that he's a teenager either, because really, he's not. But I'm ending this whole thing with just a good thing. And yes, it's actually a pretty decent thing. And that is the scope of the vampire lore. And yes, I get it. The sparkling skin, yeah, that sucks. I get it. But that is what, vampires kind of are, It's kind of like, the legend of Slender Man and all that, It's a bunch of people kind of building upon the legend of Slender Man. A lot of people throughout the ages built upon the legend of vampires, and Bram Stoker created Dracula, kind of the de facto vampire myth and all that, And ever since then, a lot of people have been tweaking the vampire lore and all that, Like, for instance, Angourie Rice, I guess, created this whole world in, the interview with the vampire lore where, I guess aliens were involved and Egypt was involved and all that crap. And yeah, that sucked, but still, vampires having sparkly skin, that's nothing, okay? I get it. They're supposed to be, dissolve, I guess. That's kind of a basic vampiric thing, but sparkling skin, that's the least of the problems in this book. I would say the Bella wanting to date a stalker, that's kind of a bigger issue here, okay? Yeah, and that's what most people are kind of bad-mouthing these movies, this book for. No, badmouth the whole stalking angle. Don't do that, whatever. All in all, though, I would say this is probably the best in the Twilight Saga, at least for now, because it's the only one. But yeah, it's the best one in the Twilight Saga, probably because it actually has a story, and it actually has some character development, and, tries to tell a story, and even does so well that it invents the fourth act. There's a fourth act in this book. So there you go. Wonderful. Just spectacular. 10 out of 10. No, not really. Please, take that as a joke. But if you think this is bad, which, yeah, for the most part, yeah. New Moon. Oh no. Get ready. So a little bit of